In this video, we're going to discuss converting percents to decimals and then decimals back into fractions. So the first step when you're solving problems where you want to take a percent and you want to turn it back into a decimal is just like whenever you went from a decimal to a percent, you're going to find the decimal point and move the decimal in 2 spaces to the left. So you're going to go the opposite direction, so that direction's left. And it's the same thing as dividing by 100 because percents are out of 100. So actually, whenever you do a percentage, you could take 28 and put it over 100 and automatically that turns a percent into a fraction. Now it's not simplified, but that's a really simple way. If you ever are given a percentage that's a whole number, just to turn it into a fraction. But if we actually work with it as a decimal, here's the decimal point. Move it 2 to the left, and then that becomes your decimal. Because that's 28 hundredths, and remember our little place value trick. Now it gets a little bit trickier when there's actually a decimal in the number. Don't start from the back if there's a decimal already in the percentage. Start from where the decimal is and move 2, fill in zeros if you need to. So that becomes 0.007. Let's do one more together. So this one does not have a decimal in it, so I'm going to add it into the back because it's a whole number. Move it to 1, 2, fill in zeros where needed, 0.06 as a decimal. And let's do one more just because this one has a decimal point already in it. Start where the decimal is, 1, 2, add in zeros where needed, 0.0009 as a decimal. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to do numbers 3 through 6, and then we'll check those ones, and then we'll do the rest of them. So pause here, do 3 through 6. So move it 2. So this became 3.4279. Start in the back, move it 2, 0.16. Move it 2 to the left, 0.725. And then 2 to the left, 0.000275. If you have any questions and you were confused, pause here, ask your teacher for some help. If not, you can keep going on, do numbers 7 through 12. Move it to 0.088. Move it to 0.01. Move it to 0.0123. Move it to 0.065. Move it to 0.76589. And then move it to 0.000025. All right, let's look at the word problems down at the bottom. So Sandra got 85% on her quiz. What would the percent be as a decimal? So I have 85%. Find where the decimal point goes. Move it to, and I get 0.85 as my answer. Pause and do 14 and 15 on your own. So same thing with 14. It wants it as a decimal, so move it 2 over 0.475. And then the same thing with 15. It wants it as a what is the percent written as a decimal? Move it to 0.15789. So that was the simpler of the 2 skills that we're going to do today. The next skill involves us using place value. So let's do some practice with place value very quickly. Remember the little cheater trick that we talked about? So there's the decimal point. And then I can put a 1 in the ones place, and then for the numbers that are behind the decimal, I can add in those zeros to help me with my place value. So here's my tenths, this is my hundredths, and this is my thousandths. And then you have your ones, your tens, your hundreds. So if we look at number 13, the 7 is in the ones place. The 2, there's actually 2 of them. The first two, that's in the ones. And the second two, that is in the 100, so it's in the hundredths. Okay, I want you to pause, do 15 and 16. Where's the 5 and where's the 8? So the 5 right here is in the thousandths. And then the 8 is in the tenths. You can use your little trick for those. All right, so now let's talk about how do we use place value to turn a decimal back into a fraction. Okay, so it says place any number in front of the decimal point as the whole number for the mixed number. So I'm going to use the example 2.25. So this whole 2, I'm going to pull it away so it becomes a whole 2 as the fraction. So that's the first step. So I pulled this 2 out. Right here. Pull out the whole number 2. Then it says take any number to the right of the decimal. And for people that struggle with the directions like I do, there's right. And place them in the numerator of the fraction. So this 25 here goes in the numerator. Then it says the place value of the numbers after the decimal point become the denominator. So this is where place value comes into play. This 25 is in the hundredths place. So this is 25 hundredths. And then the last step is to simplify. Well, this can divide by 5. So I get 2, don't forget the whole number, that's where most people mess up, and 5 twentieths, and then I could divide by 5 again. Oops. And I get 2 and 1/4 as my final answer. So let's do some examples. For the first one, I'm going to pull out that 1, so it becomes 1, and the 48 goes in the numerator. The place value goes in the denominator. So it's 1 and 48 over 100. It's even, so I'm going to try the big brother of 2, which is 4. So I get 1 and 12 over 25, and that's where it stops. Go ahead, you try number 2 on your own. So there's no whole number to pull out, so the 9 right here is just going to become the numerator. Then the place value becomes the denominator, so it's 9 tenths. No simplifying needed. Let's look at the next page. Convert the following decimals into fractions. So for number 3, there's no whole number to pull out. The 54 becomes the numerator. The denominator is the place value, so this is the hundredths. 54 won't divide by 4 because it's even, but I can try 2, and I get 27 over 50. And then the last one I'm going to do as an example is number 4. So you're going to pull that 3 out, 3 and with the fraction. The 9 goes into the numerator. Then the place value of the 9, which is the thousandths, goes into the denominator. And that one doesn't simplify. So 3 and 9 thousandths is just your answer. So what I want for you to do is I want you to try number 5 and number 6, and then unpause to check your work. So number 5, that is going to be 6 over 1,000 because that's the thousandths place. I can divide that one by 2, and I get 3 over 500, and that's where it ends. This is going to be 35 over 100. It ends in 5, so I can, or 5 and 0, so I can divide by 5, and I get 7/20ths, and that's where it stops. If you're having trouble with this right now, make sure you pause the video and ask your teacher for help, and we can help walk you through the rest of them. I want you to pause the video and do 7 through 10 on your own. So for number 7, the 4 comes out. 4 and 53 becomes the numerator, place value of 100. And this one doesn't simplify. Oops. For number 8, that was 77 over 100 for the place value. And that one also doesn't simplify. I'm just putting these little notes for you here just so you know why you stopped. Number 8, 457 over 1,000. And that one doesn't simplify. And then the last one, the 8 comes out. 8 and is the fraction. 75 over 100. Ends in 5 and 0, so I can divide by 5. Don't forget to bring the 8 with it. If I divide it by 5, I get 15 over 20, which simplifies again by 5, and I get 8 and 3/4. Final answer. Okay, so let's talk about this little conversion table we have down here now, because we're going to see it a whole bunch. So in the row for number 1, which is right here, you're given this decimal. You're going to turn the decimal into a percent, and then you're going to turn the decimal into a fraction. So if we turn this decimal into a percent, remember we go to the left, to the right to turn it into a percentage. So that turns into 4%. And then to turn it into a fraction, we look at the place value. So that's 4/100ths. We could also look at the percentage and say, okay, we know a percent's out of 100. 4 out of 100 from my percentage. I didn't even have to look at the decimal. Now always make sure you simplify. So this one divides by 4, and I can get 1 over 25. Okay. I'll do row 2 with you. The decimal, well, we know the whole number is going to be a 2, so I'm just going to put a 2 here, 2 point, because I have a whole number of 2 in my fraction. But I need to figure out what is that 1 over 25 with my long division. So top dog in the house, denominator outside, 25 can't go into 1, 25 can't go into 10, 25 goes into 100 4 times. So 2, and remember we don't put the 0 there because the 2 is going to take the place. 0.04 is the decimal. Move the decimal point 2 to the right to turn it into a percentage, 204%. So go ahead, do row 3, row 4, and row 5. Unpause the video when you're ready to check. Okay, so percent to decimal, right in the decimal point for this one, move it 2 to the left, so it's 0.85. And then that'll be 85 over 100 as the fraction. Ends in 5 and 0, so I can divide by 5. And you should get 17 over 20. For number 4, that's going to be 1, because I pulled the 1 out, and that's 4/10. Simplify by 2, and I get 1 2/5. Now if I turn this into a percentage, move it 2 to the right, So I get 140%. And then the last one, I have to write in the decimal point, move it 2 to the left, 0.26. That becomes 26 hundredths because the place value is the hundredths. And I can divide it by 2, and I get 13 over 50. If you're having any trouble with that table, make sure you ask your teacher for help, and we're happy to help you understand it.